This is John Fisher of North Chelmsford, Massachusetts. I listen to the International Radio Report every Sunday morning at 10:30 on CKUT 90.3 FM in the fair city of Montreal.
Welcome, everybody, to the International Radio Report on CKUT 98.3 FM. It is Sunday, March the 5th, 2023. We thank you for tuning in. My name's Sheldon. I'm here with Jill. We also have Mickey Delmage out in Sherwood Park, Alberta, joining us once again today. We have a lot of news for you. Lots of stuff from the ham radio world and some news about AI DJs and all sorts of strange things going on. First off, though, we want to remind you how to get in touch with us. Our email address, radioreport@yahoo.com. We are live streaming and archived at ckut.ca, the brand new CKUT website. If you haven't checked it out yet, go take a look at it. That's ckut.ca. Facebook group is International Radio Report, 907 members. And our YouTube channel, where you can go and watch and listen to the show anytime you like. It is also called International Radio Report. We have 786 subscribers there. We have the time change coming up next weekend, and that always has an impact on the show. Often has an impact on CKUT as well. Things always get kind of weird around that twice a year when the clock changes. But it is changing next Saturday evening into Sunday morning. And what does that mean for International Radio Report? Well, we are going to be at the same time Eastern, 10:30 Eastern as usual. But beginning next week, it will be 14:30 UTC rather than 15:30 UTC. So keep that in mind. If things do get screwed up, if you're listening to us live streamed and you're there at the wrong time or something's just not working right, best to go and check our YouTube channel after, where you'll find the show if you miss it on the air. So keep that in mind, not just for our show, but for all of your international listening and what have you. The time change switching back to Eastern Daylight Time here in East Coast, or eastern part of North America. So 14:30 UTC. CKUT is having its annual funding drive. That is how a lot of the money that keeps this radio station rolling and keeps programs like ours going is coming up Friday, March the 17th through Sunday, March the 26th. If you've been with us for many years on the show, you know what it's all about. It's time to open up the wallet, get out the checkbook, do whatever you need to do, but send in a donation to CKUT for the funding drive. You can find out all the information on the webpage. You don't have to wait until March the 17th. You can make a donation to CKUT anytime throughout the year. But obviously on the funding drive itself, March 17th to the 26th, we are looking to raise our goal of $45,000. The theme for this year is Serving Up Fresh Radio since 1987. And that's what we've been doing on this show since 1987, when our show began. The station is upping its goal by $10,000 from last year, and we need your help in getting there. There's all kinds of events going on. There's a kickoff dance here in Montreal and a closing night dance going on. A lot of events throughout the drive as well. A little bit more about the theme. The station has been serving up the freshest programming in Montreal since 1987. For decades, programmers have cooked up all kinds of musical blends, news, and views from all around the world, and much more to expand listeners' tastes and perk their ears. CKUT nurtures a special blend of radio that is handmade with heart. We need the community to come together to support this meaningful legacy and keep our winning recipe going for years to come. So we'll be reminding you of this as it gets closer, and we'll have two shows during the funding drive where we'll really focus on getting your support. You've always been overly generous in supporting our show over the years. We hope we can count on you again in this year's funding drive.
Yeah, and don't forget that when you actually do the donation, you will be asked what is your favorite show. So please choose your favorite show. In our case, of course, if you choose International Radio Report, so that they will know at the same time, what show you like the most.
There's also lots of things being given away in exchange for your donation. New T-shirts are being designed and swag from CKUT and a bunch of other goodies. And you'll be able to hear all about those gifts that are available as well once the funding drive is underway. So keep a watch on the ckut.ca website, and we'll, of course, update you on it as it approaches. One thing that's still going on this weekend, we talked about it last weekend, gave you a preview of it. It is the ARRL International DX Contest. It is a single sideband contest, and it's still running as we speak, and it will run until 2359 Zulu, March the 5th. It's 160 meters through 10 meters, no work bands. And as I said, it's SSB. You guys have been noticing some interesting stations on the air.
Both Gilles and I worked St. Brandon Island in the Indian Ocean off of, by Mauritius, Rodriguez area. I had them on 12 yesterday, and very neat, very cool stuff.
I was able to get a JT1CO station, which I thought was Japan until he mentioned Mongolia, and I was like, what? And apparently, so I got the contact. I'm so happy in SSB voice. He was mentioning that he was going to be part of the contest. So lots of really neat stations in there.
Yeah, the bands are crowded for these big contests. Just scan around all of them and see what you can hear. If you're a ham, of course, try to work as many as you can. But it's a great opportunity to find some rare countries on the air, people gone off on de-expeditions to interesting places that aren't normally on the air at other times of the year. So you still have some time to participate and to tune around the ham bands and see what interesting stations you can pick up. So that runs until 2359 Zulu today, March the 5th.
So we have a former FEMA leaders that continue to push for AM preservation by Al Karras from Radio World. The laundry list of current and former government officials advocating for the safeguarding of AM radio and electric vehicles continues to grow. On February 26th, 7 former leaders of the Federal Emergency Management Agency penned a letter to the Secretary of the Department of Transportation advocating for the preservation of the senior band and urging regulators to take action to protect the nation's public safety. Because of the great distances that its signal carries and due to its resiliency during even the worst natural disasters, the success of the National Public Warning System hinges on the use of AM radio. The collective of former FEMA leaders wrote, however, should EV makers continue removing AM radios from their vehicles, this vital public safety system will no longer function as intended. The dialogue between automakers and the AM advocates has grown significantly in recent weeks. As we reported earlier, the Alliance for Automotive Innovation sent a reply to Senator Ed Markey after he asked individual car companies about their commitment to broadcast AM radio in electric and other future vehicles. In the days following, Markey, the Alliance, the National Association of Broadcasters, and now FEMA officials and an FCC commissioner have continued a public discourse. On Monday, February 27th, FCC Commissioner Nathan Symington released his own statement highlighting AM radio's continued importance for public safety and applauding the statement by FEMA leaders. As the FCC shares authority with FEMA for many aspects of our national emergency alerting systems, I underscore and affirm their concerns in the strongest possible terms, said Symington in his own statement. The issue of the continued inclusion of AM radios in electric vehicles deserve urgent attention. The former FEMA leaders said some EV manufacturers have begun removing AM radios from their cars due to the resolvable signal interference. Should this continue, it will represent a grave threat to future local, state, and federal disaster response and relief efforts. Echoing them, Symington said, as adoption of electric vehicles increases, we must not leave behind those in rural areas who depend upon radio for their news and alerts. While many in rural communities depend upon AM radio for the information about emergencies, particularly alerts about weather, AM radio is important for more than just emergency information and alerting. AM radio informs and entertains tens of millions of listeners, said Symington. Broadcasters spend decades developing relationships with the local communities that they serve, and the trust engendered by those relationships pays dividends back through community-informed reporting. And just like emergency alerting, an informed and engaged citizenry serves as an essential foundation for public safety. While making no assurance that the AM band will remain as a feature in dashboards, the Alliance for Automotive Innovation said that it and its members are committed to maintaining consumer access to vital safety information. The public safety community and the American public rely on AM radio, Symington said. Auto manufacturers now, and increasingly in the future, will rely on Spectrum. Care should be taken to weigh the velocity of innovations against the stability of institutions. The Commission can and must play a role in striking that balance. It is true that AM radio has many advantages over other forms of broadcasting. One of them, reaching great distances in times of disaster. This could be extremely important.
Yeah, there's been so much talk of this when we're seeing here in Canada is a prime example of the number of AM stations, particularly out west. There are stations that cover great distances. To do what they do on FM would take a complete network of small repeater relays throughout pretty remote areas, pretty costly to do all of that installation work. But to get one signal out on one clear channel AM frequency can serve literally, probably tens of thousands of people, if not more.
Once again, I think there's a lot of minding from maybe some of them that it's an old technology. We hear that often, and it is not. It's still there. It's still, quite popular, actually. Listen to the AM band at night, and you'll see that there's still a lot of stations out there. But we don't want that to go dark because somebody somewhere decided that, well, you got a problem with noise and let's not fix it, when they can fix it, actually.
They've been talking about increasing the power on certain clear channel stations. As some of the smaller AM stations, I should say, are disappearing, there's more space on the AM band. So they've been talking about possibly giving some of the big powerhouse stations even more power, like maybe upping a 50,000 watt station to 100,000 watts. And they would, again, be able to cover a much broader coverage area. With more space on the band, that might be some alternative available. We've had instances where hurricanes down in Florida, for example, I think that was the most recent example we had of where nearly all the FM stations were off the air, or they were simply playing music because they were automated. There was one AM clear channel station on the air, and people were finding little portable radios to go and listen to this one station because it was the only way to get current, fresh news of what was happening. TV stations were off, FM stations were off, internet was down, cell phones weren't working. But what was working? AM radio.
So what's happening with our sun? Well, as we're recording, it's very active. A X2 class solar flare has occurred. And this is pretty much what's happening with our sun. It's very active. It's putting out a lot of flares. Disturbances also. We've seen quite a few reports this week of auroras being visible across Canada and some northern U.S. states. So this is going to be the mix that's going to continue. Quiet moments with some solar activity, solar flares, maybe some auroras in there mixed in. Which gives very interesting conditions. It changes propagation, and it's worth listening to your radio. Sunspot number 103, solar flux 169. In news of where we are in our solar cycle, actually, it's very interesting because the month of January is very active. February was even more active. We pretty much peaked in February at the same level as the solar maximum of the last cycle 10 years ago. And since the solar activity is supposed to continue rising because the solar cycle is supposed to peak in 2024, 2025, I think we're looking at a very strong cycle coming up in the next couple of years. And this is great because I've been doing ham radio, and I can tell you it's really fun on the bands to see everything we're getting and we're hearing, especially on the higher frequencies. But if you want to notice this, you got to do one thing, and it's to turn on a radio and listen.
This is Peter Laws in Norman, Oklahoma. On the air since 1987, you're tuned to the International Radio Report, 30 minutes of radio about radio every Sunday morning on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal and live streaming around the globe at ckut.ca.
Now, if you turn on your radio, as Jill suggests every week to you, you'll hear DJs, broadcast announcers talking to us, telling us information, trying to make us laugh, doing whatever it is that they want to do, giving us the news. Well, maybe turning on your radio pretty soon, you might be hearing something that sounds a little different. And we thank Mickey for passing this story along to us. It comes from Cameron Sunkel of EDM.com. The headline, the world's first AI radio station is equipped to write and deliver full broadcasts and replicate DJs. If you thought radio hosts and DJs were safe from the disruptive potential of AI, guess again. GPT-3 is beaming in with a special radio broadcast. The famous AI model powering programs such as ChatGPT has already demonstrated a disruptive potential to shake up a variety of industries and functions. And now, radio DJs may soon be caught in its wreckage. A Cleveland-based media company, Futuri, has launched what it calls the world's first AI-driven localized radio platform, Radio GPT. Futuri's blueprint for local radio is created by marrying GPT-3 with proprietary topic pulse technology. The tech first crawls social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, among others, to identify relevant stories. GPT-3 then creates a script based off those findings before leveraging AI voice technology to create and deliver the associated audio. As early AI innovators in the broadcast space, it's only natural that we're bringing the incredible power of GPT-3 technology paired with groundbreaking technology like a topic pulse to radio. Futuri CEO Daniel Anstadig said in a statement, the ability for broadcasters to use Radio GPT to localize their on-air content in a turnkey fashion opens up resources for them to deepen their important home field advantages in new and unique ways. With Radio GPT, the possibilities are endless. With Radio GPT, there should never be a liner card or sweeper-only air shift again. Now everybody can be live and local. The company's press release also notes that the technology can be trained to replicate the voices of existing radio personalities like DJs. How scary is this?
This is something that is scary for the future because the boundary between knowing that what you're listening to is created by computers and machines and a real human is becoming more and more difficult to make a difference. Already it's powerful, but it's not perfect. So we still have the ability, if you listen closely, to make a difference. They're talking about the GPT-3. We already have 4 that is out, and each version is more and more powerful. At some point, it's not going to be obvious. At some point, you think you're going to be listening to a human. You're actually going to be listening to a machine.
Yeah, I heard this story broke the other morning on local radio station here, Now Radio. And as the 4 announcers were scrambling to get their resumes redone before this comes along, it brought up a conversation with the audience about where we are with AI right now. And, they're very concerned about high school kids and university kids getting reports done by AI and just even going into, they talked about robots and stuff like that are serving restaurants here in Edmonton and elsewhere around, things. I don't think very few humans are building cars anymore. It's all done by, the future. I think maybe Styx and Mr. Roboto were ahead of their time.
Yeah, that's quite possible. Eh? Yeah, we've got our new super hospital in Montreal has got little robots roaming around the hallways, delivering things from place to place and what have you. And turning on the radio right now, it's sort of gone in stages. There are these companies out there right now that pools for radio announcers. You can hire the company to create a DJ for you and do all your announcing for you. And, you don't have to have an employee in your own town. You can give the DJ a name. You can, tell them what you want them to say and format you want to use and whatever. And every 3 or 4 weeks, they send you a package of your whole station is programmed for you. Now, that's still using some real people, but this could take it to the next level. They may not need those people anymore, and you just buy a prepackaged radio DJ, stick them on the air, tell them what you want it to say, program it, and away you go. So companies look at this. What does it do? Cuts down on their overhead.
Terminator Radio coming to a radio station near you. Hasta la vista,
Terminator
baby.
Radio, yeah. But you know what happened with Terminator, don't you?
How long have you been live on International Radio Report?
Yeah, since 1987. But, Gilles putting up all those recordings. Maybe somebody's going to go in there and sample them all. And the next thing you know.
There's a nice story about, what radio should be all about. Cape Cod DJ builds reputation for true life stories in Ukraine. This is by Denise Coffey of Cape Cod Times. DJ Anne Levine with WOMR in Provincetown works from her dentist's home with radio equipment staged in a war room. Her battle is against the Russian army's invasion of Ukraine, set in motion 1 year ago on February 24th. Her weapon is a Rode microphone and mixing board, headphones, computers, and a monitor screen. Her ammunition is the interviews she's broadcast weekly after talking with people on the ground in Ukraine. She's logged more than 50 radio shows, interviews, doctors, soldiers, historians, and even social influencers. I hope I can convey some of what it's like to be an average Ukrainian citizen with air raid sirens going off constantly, Levine said. Imagine the power goes out and the water goes off indefinite stretches of months in the winter. No heat, no water, no light, no electricity, no TV, no nothing. Levine started working with Kraina FM, a Ukrainian station that retooled itself as the radio of national resistance after its tower in Kyiv was bombed on February 24th, 2022. The station's general manager and programming director helped Levine get in touch with Ukrainian contacts and voice actors to translate interviews into English. Kraina FM turned its focus from playing popular Ukrainian music to helping the war effort. It started broadcasting developments on the front, asked listeners to donate when the military needed clothing or computers, and ran children's programs to give comfort to the war's youngest victims. Now Kraina FM is working with the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. Levine still has contact with them, but her reach has spread and she's been able to get interviews with experts in foreign relations, academics, and the military. She's spoken with authors, historians, and television stars. Many of Levine's guests are Ukrainians intimately involved with what's happening in the country. Other guests are non-Ukrainians or are well informed in the historical and cultural underpinnings of the conflict. The combination has given a clear picture of what Pacifica Radio's Ursula Rudenberg calls a genuine democratic revolution. Rudenberg's Pacifica's affiliate network manager edits the Ukraine 242 shows. Pacifica makes the show available free of charge to its 225 members, as well as any other radio station that wants to air it. She was initially skeptical about the show's impact, but now says Levine's show operate at a higher level than other shows available to American listeners. So this is great use of radio to inform, keep us informed of the situation and what's happening.
Yeah, that's interesting that they're making those programs available to other radio stations. A station like ours here, CKUT, often runs different programming from other sources. This may be something that we should tell our programming people about. I think it would be interesting to put some of these programs on the air here in Montreal. And then, once they get on the air, they're streamed, more people can hear them. I think it's an excellent initiative and based in radio technology, which is really great to see.
So we have upcoming ham radio contests.
If you're a ham and enjoy these things, you're going to be busy. Starting off with the RSGB Commonwealth Contest, 1000 March 11th to 1000 Zulu March 12th. Organized by the Radio Society of Great Britain, the bands are 80 through 10 meters, and it is a CW-only contest.
We have the Straight Key Century Club Weekend Sprintathon from 12 hours Zulu March 11th to 23:59 Zulu March 12th. The band's 160 through 6 meters, and this is in CW.
The EA PSK 63 contest, organized by the Unión de Radio Aficionados Españoles, is running from 1200 to March 11th to 1200 March the 12th. The bands are 10 through 80 meters, and the mode is B PSK 63 only.
There's the AGCW QRP contest, 1400 Zulu to 2000 Zulu March 11th, organized by the German Telegraphy Activity Group. The bands are 80 through 10 meters. Mode is CW, and it's only QRP, which is low power.
A whole bunch of QSO parties going on. Oklahoma QSO party, 1500 Zulu March 11th to 2100 Zulu March 12th. That is organized by just a single ham operator, Connie, K5CM. The band's 80 through 6 meters, and it is modes CW, SSB, PSK, radio teletype, but no FT8.
There's the Idaho QSO party from 1900 Zulu March 11th to 1900 Zulu March 12th, organized by the Pocatello Amateur Radio Club. It's 160 through 10 meters. You're allowed CW, SSB, and digital, but no FT8.
The North American Sprint RTTY, 0100 to 0359 Zulu March 12th. That's organized by the National Contest Journal. 3 bands, 80, 40, and 20 meters only, and it is radio teletype only.
And the Wisconsin QSO party, 1800 Zulu March 12th to 0100 Zulu March 13th, organized by the West Allis Radio Amateur Club. Bands are all bands 160 through UHF. And the modes phone CW and digital like RTTY, PSK, Olivia, Feldhell, but FT8, FT4 QSOs are not accepted.
It seems to be a trend in a lot of these events and contests going on that FT8 is not a desired mode when it comes to contesting.
Yeah, or just make contests just for FT8 and, keep them in a separate category. Yeah.
I'm sure with both of you, Mickey, you haven't got into the FT8 stuff yet, though, right?
No. I'm trying to avoid that at all costs. I love making contact, human voice contact, and we talked about AI. Well, there you go. Exactly. But you also mentioned a couple of times here the sprint contests, and I'm not a contester myself, but sprint is the contest of contesters, because I don't think you're allowed to stay on one frequency. You have to keep moving around, so it's a real
challenge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few of those too. So it's it takes some skills, some special skills to get involved in those things. So anyways, give them a listen if you're not a ham. Tune them in, see what it's like, what it's all about. Maybe it might encourage you to get a ham license as well. You never know.
Definitely. So we're out of time.
Yeah, we thanks Mickey for popping in from Alberta here today again. Always nice to have you on the show with us.
Yep.
Well, thanks, sir. Thanks for having me. Normally at this time, we'd be driving through upstate New York looking for a diner on our way back from the real Winterfest.
Exactly.
But hopefully, it was a good weekend.
All right. So we'll be back again next week. Don't forget the time change coming up. So look for us if you look for us in UTC time. We'll be on at 10:30 Eastern Time, but 14:30 UTC, not 15:30 UTC. So keep that in mind. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be back again with you next Sunday morning with our next edition of the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. Bye-bye for now.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.